Multiple Republican Congress members have said that their lives have been threatened by Donald Trump's Department of Justice in connection with their demand for transparency around the release of the Epstein files. We've heard now from Thomas Massie, Republican Congress member from Kentucky, who spearheaded that discharge petition. He said that the Trump DOJ and the FBI threatened criminal prosecutions against his staff for pushing through the discharge petition. More on that in a moment. Marjorie Taylor Greene had previously put out a notice that if something were to happen to her and that she were to be killed, that there are powerful men who want to go after her, and she says that she's not suicidal and that it would not be by way of suicide that she would die, and she said it would be because essentially some powerful person connected with her request for transparency would be behind it.
You know, talking about Donald Trump. The thing is, I don't even like saying the name Donald Trump, even when Donald Trump makes me talk about Donald Trump. So right now, let's talk about something other than Donald Trump. Melania Trump. After largely being absent following the inauguration this year, the First Lady is suddenly making public appearances, beginning with a trip last month to England, where she wore the largest hat allowed.
You know what's fascinating? While everyone's focused on Stephen Colbert destroying Donald Trump night after night, there's another Trump he's been quietly exposing for years. And she's arguably even more mysterious, more calculating, and definitely better at hiding her schemes. I'm talking about Melania Trump, and Colbert's been on to her from the very beginning. From plagiarism scandals to NFT scams to ghosts in the White House entirely, Colbert has documented every shady move.
We also know about the threats to the lives of the survivors as well. And we're also seeing what the DOJ has done to people within the department who have discussed the Epstein files. And there was an example of one individual, senior DOJ official who worked in the Witness Safety Coordination Program. And after O'Keefe, that reporter who does the sting operations, interviewed this DOJ guy, the DOJ fired him right away for talking about the Epstein files, and a lawsuit was just filed on behalf of that DOJ agent. So let's go through these facts and let's talk about what's happening here. And this is all happening, by the way, at the time that Bloomberg got a response to their FOIA request from the federal courts.
In the past few weeks, Melania and the president went on a double date with J.D. Vance and the Second Lady, and she even gave a speech to the Navy, which she kicked off with their famous battle cry.
Hoo-yah, Navy! Hoo-yah, Navy! Hoo-yah, Navy!
Strange, boy. When you say it that many times, the word hoo-yah starts to lose all meaning.
This is a complete story of how America's most trusted late night host exposed a First Lady nobody talks about. Before we dive in, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. I've got more exposes mainstream media won't touch. Let's start with May 2025. Just 4 months into Trump's second term, reports started coming out that Melania had spent fewer than 14 days actually in the White House since January. 14 days and 4 months. When Trump was asked about it on Meet the Press, he had a simple explanation. She's a very private person. Colbert immediately called.
Which also showed the scale and scope of the cover-up taking place inside the DOJ and FBI, and like $1 million was basically spent on overtime back in March over a very short period of time in connection with redactions of the Epstein files, the removal of stuff from the Epstein files. Let's break this all down, shall we? So Thomas Massie was on InfoWars, And he talked about the threats that FBI agents and Kash Patel made to his staff, which Massey believes is probably illegal, and said that they would initiate criminal investigations. So the Trump DOJ, FBI saying that they were going to do criminal investigations into Massey. Here, play, because he was pushing forward the discharge petition. Play this clip.
If Kim wants to meet, I'll be in South Korea. It doesn't matter to me. I mean, do you think he get my message? Did he get the message? Is he watching this? I don't care if he does. Should I text him now? No, it's too soon, right? I'm going to text him again. But I'm going to keep it cool, keep it cash. I love you. I'll send it. I'll send it now. I won't send it again.
Yes, she's a very private person. Colbert said on May 8, 2025, was film crews following her around for the $40 million documentary about her life. Let that sink in. Trump's claiming his wife is too private to show up to the White House, while she's literally filming a documentary about herself with cameras for $40 million, directed by Brett Ratner, the guy who got canceled in 2017 for multiple sexual assault and harassment allegations. But here's the part that really exposes what's going on. Because Melania's been MIA, Trump's had to take over traditional First Lady duties himself.
Also, I'm going to say this here on camera because it's important. One of Kash Patel's staff threatened my staff with a criminal investigation if we didn't straighten up and play ball.
I was going to ask you about that, but since you brought it up, and I didn't,
I'm bringing it up.
Okay, you brought it up.
And so, like a criminal investigation having nothing to do, he said it was going to be a fraud. We're going to investigate one of your staff for fraud. Right. And he told another one of my staff this. If you guys don't straighten up, if you want to play hardball, if this is how you want to play it or something like that, this member of your staff is going to get criminally investigated for fraud. A very specific threat.
Right.
And that had just happened. So I told Bongino, I said, one of your guys is threatening my guys with an FBI investigation if we don't do what you want. And he said, I'll take care of that. Because even he understood that was not a good look. It's probably illegal, right? So the fallout of that is the FBI employee who threatened my staff. I have to tell you all this, by the way, Steve, and I have to tell all the listeners this, because this is the context in which I'm worried for the whistleblower. Mm-hmm. If they're willing to retaliate against a congressional office, which has speech or debate immunity and a lot of other protections, they may be willing to retaliate against a whistleblower.
And previously, you had Marjorie Taylor Greene post, I am not suicidal and one of the happiest and healthiest people you will meet. I have full faith in God and Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior. As a sinner, I am only saved through his grace and mercy. With that said, if something happens to me, I ask you all to find out which foreign government or powerful people would take heinous actions to stop the information from coming out, not only about this issue, but because of the truth that I have been speaking. The people understand what I am saying. Then later she talked about the death threats that her business was receiving, that she was receiving.
But the new prime minister has a plan to win him over. She's going to gift him a gold golf ball. It is so sad to see how easy it is to butter up the president of the United States. Okay, quick. Trump's visiting. What are we going to give him this time? Gold burger? Gold TV? Have we tried spray painting a woman gold? We did? And she died because she couldn't sweat? Okay, that's out.
Selecting light fixtures for the residents, redesigning the Rose Garden, greeting tour groups, hosting Women's History Month receptions, and Colbert added, and of course, sleeping in a separate bedroom from himself. Historians compare Melania to Bess Truman, the wife of Harry Truman, who also kept an extremely low profile. Colbert nailed it with one joke. Melania was clearly inspired by Mrs. Truman's famous catchphrase, be best. Don't forget to like this video and drop a comment telling me which Melania scandal shocked you the most. But Melania's absence isn't new. Colbert's been tracking her disappearing acts and her schemes for years. Let's go back to June 2018.
From the Trump MAGA base, as Donald Trump basically called her Marjorie Trader Brown. Okay, let's talk about the Epstein survivors, the threats that they've been getting. Here we hear from Annie Farmer, one of the victims, survivors of Ghislaine Maxwell and Epstein. Here she says how, it wasn't that Ghislaine just procured the children for this sex trafficking ring that Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans are now covering up, but she was threatening to the survivors as well. Play this clip.
She didn't just procure girls and women for Epstein, but she herself participated in their abuse. I think that's an important thing for people to understand. And then she also, made threats. She made threats to my sister, to our family, when it was clear that my sister had reported her. And so I think that to be told that suddenly she's being brought to the table as a potential source of information when she's previously been charged with perjury by the government is very confusing and unsettling.
Now, here was the, reporting here by O'Keefe and his organization, O'Keefe Media Group. You see it right there. And I'm sure there are a lot of issues where O'Keefe and I disagree, no doubt about that. But he was able to film this, and it spawned the DOJ firing the individual who was on this recording. This individual has since filed a lawsuit against the DOJ for violating his First Amendment rights. Here's what was captured on the O'Keefe tape, just to remind you, and then we'll talk about that lawsuit. Play this clip.
But those files do exist.
Yeah, thousands and thousands of pages of files. They'll redact every Republican or conservative person in those files, leave all the liberal, Democratic people in those files.
I think they visited that Maxwell person.
Yeah.
And also involved.
She got transferred to a minimum security prison too recently, which is against BOP policy because she's a convicted sex offender. They're offering her something to keep her mouth shut.
That was the acting deputy chief of the Office of Enforcement Operations, Joseph Schnitt, telling a stranger about the FBI and DOJ's handling of the Epstein files. Schnitt, who works at a high level inside the Department of Justice, goes on to comment on the inconsistent statements, special treatment of Ghislaine Maxwell, and the blatant backtracking on promises of transparency.
One leader Trump is not scheduled to meet is his old buddy, North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un, who he was asked about.
Would you extend your trip in Asia in order to meet with him?
Well, I hadn't thought of it.
Yeah. He hasn't thought of it. Hasn't thought of Kim Jong-un at all, really. Here's all the other times on the trip he wasn't thinking about him.
Well, I would if he would contact him. And I'd do it. And if you want to put out the word, I'm open to it. He knows I'm coming, and he would. Yeah, I'd be open to it 100%. I would love to see him if he wants to, if he even gets this message. I'd love to meet with him if he'd like to meet. I got along great with Kim Jong-un. I liked him. He liked me. If he wants to meet, I'll be in South Korea.
Dude, attempt to chill, okay?
Trump's zero-tolerance immigration policy was separating children from their parents at the border. It was the worst moral scandal of his presidency. Even Trump backed down for once. So, Melania made a surprise trip to Texas to visit detained children to show that the administration cared. And on her way there, she wore a jacket that read, "I really don't care. Do you?" Colbert staff had to check multiple times to make sure the photo wasn't fake, because it seemed so impossible that it was real. When I heard she was doing this, I thought, okay, this is what first ladies often do. You go to a troubled area, they see the children, they show that we care. You can't mess that up. Colbert said on June 21st, 2018, guess what? I spoke too soon.
First Lady also found time to post what appears to be an AI-generated video with the caption, "Into the future," that shows her materializing out of thin air like a pouty Terminator. Which does make this moment from the movie finally make sense.
I'll be best.
It's all leading people to wonder why, after being out of the spotlight for so long, does the First Lady suddenly seem to be everywhere? Suddenly here to tell us is First Lady Melania Trump. Madam First Lady, thank you for joining us.
Hoo-yah, Stephen. Hoo-yah.
No, ma'am, that's the Navy battle cry. It's not really appropriate here.
Oh, no, Stephen. Hoo-yah, I think is excited to be here instead of on a double date with J.D. Vance.
Melania's spokesperson claimed there was no hidden message. Right, it's definitely not hidden. Colbert shot back. It's right on the back. And I'm going to guess this is one message she did not steal from Michelle Obama. And that brings us to Melania's most humiliating moment. One Colbert and millions of Americans watched in real time. July 2016 Republican National Convention. Melania's big primetime speech as a potential First Lady.
What do you do for work again?
I work for the Department of Justice.
Okay.
Been there like 23 years. I'm an analyst. I'll be acting deputy chief of our office for a few months starting next week. I work closely with like all the federal law enforcement agencies and the U.S. Attorney's offices, the prosecutors and stuff. The thing is, it's interesting because I do deal with so many agencies, like the Bureau of Prisons, the Marshal Service, the FBI, U.S. Attorney's offices.
Okay, Mark Zaid. You know the lawyer, he's been on the Midas Touch Network. Today we filed a First Amendment lawsuit against Bondi and the Department of Justice for illegally firing DOJ Deputy Chief Joseph Schmidt. They said it's an illegal firing because it was without any due process. These were personal comments of public interest made on a private date that turned out to be a targeted O'Keefe operation. What you got there? Right, let's turn to what's going on from this. By the way, Bloomberg has been doing really good reporting lately, not just on the Epstein stuff, where they got the 18,000 emails from the Epstein estate. Remember, they also have done incredible reporting on that phone call between Yuri Yushakov, Kirill Dmitriev, Steve Witkoff, which showed the United States basically just acting as an agent of Putin to try to destroy Ukraine. So this is from the Bloomberg report right here. Jason Leopold, great reporter. He says, new exclusive. The FBI turned over dozens of emails to me in response to my FOIA request that provides a behind-the-scenes look at the discussions involving the review and redaction of the Epstein files. So here's what the DOJ is talking about from their information management division. We are all prepared to receive boxes tomorrow as New York agents are traveling to WFO in the morning and will arrive in Winchester, where they will start photographing and we will start scanning and processing the physical files. Once I see the volume, I'll have a better estimate of processing times, although I suggest we do a rolling delivery to further demonstrate the FBI's commitment to delivery and transparency. Tomorrow, I'll have a recap of historic FOIA cases. So what they were saying back in like March, let's do a rolling production, meaning let's start getting the documents out back then, which we know they didn't do.
Writer take the fall. She where I really don't care to visit detained migrant children. She created fake NFT sales by buying her own digital artwork with her own cryptocurrency. She demanded $250,000 for interviews about her inspiring memoir. She spent fewer than 14 days in the White House while collecting taxpayer money. And she's filming a $40 million documentary while claiming to be very private. Melania isn't a victim trapped in Trump's world that some people imagine. She's a willing participant in every grift, every scheme, every con. She's just better at hiding it than her husband. But Stephen Colbert sees through it, and he's been documenting it all, one devastating joke at a time. Like and subscribe if you want more exposes on the Trump family's corruption. I'll keep bringing you the stories mainstream media ignores.